Hi, this is Damien AtHope, and I am an axiological atheist, which can simply be understood as a value theory or a value science atheist. And I want to talk today about, to me, two different kinds of evidence. So a lot of people will say, oh, well, I have evidence of a thing. And to me, generally, what I think of as two categories of evidence, the philosophical and the science. And so philosophical to me would be anything that's not, in a sense, testable, generally, is not testable or, is not an evidentiary in the fact that you can pick it up and see it and look at it, or it's not, you cannot notice patterns and things. It's not, it's not external of the mind, in a sense. So to me, the philosophical evidence is the logic and reason that helps us see the philosophical side of error in things, or it can also be evidence of things. When you understand that the way logic is, you understand something is true or untrue. And so because of that, that's a type of evidence you're offering. If someone says, I can be a cat and I can also be a human, that's an impossibility. I don't need to go look at the evidence. Just logically in my mind, I know those two things are contradictory in themselves. They can't be the same thing at the same time. So, to me, logical evidence is a different kind of evidence. So a lot of times people will say, I have evidence for something. And the first thing that we need to address is what kind of evidence are they talking about? Which goes back to my hammer of truth, which is three types of philosophy always done in the same order. So it's always ontology first, or the thingness of the thing. That's what you're asking. The what question. What are you talking about? That's the ontology. You want because you're asking to understand. And ontology is different than a definition. When someone gives you a definition, what they've done is basically given you a little summary of something. It's like a cliff note. Not even a whole set of cliff notes. It's generally just one cliff note. It's the simplest thing. And so, to me, when I want an ontology, often something that's that so generalized is not helpful almost at all. Because an ontology, what I'm really trying to do is figure out what something actually is. Its thingness, its beingness, its properties, its quantifies. If I say a table, what's the difference between a table and just a chair or a bar stool, or what's the difference that makes a table something a table? How would we know? I mean, could we have a little round table the size of a stool? Certainly possible, and it'd still be a table depending on its use. If you're sitting on it, well, then it's no longer a table. So, but if you were told this, you would need to know more properties, more understanding of what constitutes a table, that you have to be able to put things on top of it. Obviously, if it's 10 feet high and it's not very usable for us without a ladder, then because of that thing, its properties are no longer really what we would call a table. Because a table, like truth, when you say truth, you're putting a label on something. You're like labeling it. So when you say table, it's a label for a type of thing. And so that thing has properties that you would need to understand. It has to hold weight. Now, if someone had a thing that's a table, supposedly, it looked like, what generally people think of as a table, but you went to put a cup on it and it just fell apart. It was made of paper mache and it was real fragile. Then it wouldn't really function as a table. Because table is meant more than just a thing in the room that looks like something. It has to have function generally when you think of it as a table. So the other thing is just mimicking a table. If it's made of the flimsy paper mache, it's not actually a table. It's just mimicking it. And there's a difference. So when you understand like that variation, when someone offers something like a God, says, I have evidence of a God, you need to first ask, what is a God? What is the thingness of the thing, like the table? I want to hear its properties. How do I, just like I said, if a table was 10 feet tall, it would no longer be a table, even if it had every other thing correct except the height. not a table. It's not usable. It's not functional. It's same thing. If, like I said, if it's, if we lay it all the way on the ground and has no legs at all, it's just on the ground. It's not so much a table because once again, we can't barely even use it. It's like a mat on the floor almost. So the qualities of a thing matter. It changes every little bit of the change takes away its right to own the term. It's the same thing of chair. If I say it's a chair, something's a chair, but once again, it's 15 feet tall, unless that's where I need to be sitting, it's not very functional to use as a chair. And to me, things that we give these terms to, we would demand in real life, when someone just says saying things, like identify a car, you don't go, okay, you understand now. Well, you don't really understand. There's a lot of kinds of cars and a lot of kinds of designs and things. It's amazing how people want good ontologies for almost everything except religion shit. When it comes to religion, people love generalizations. Oh God, I have this feeling, what's a feeling? Well, it's a good feeling. Well, what good feeling? What exactly are you saying? Euphoria? Are you saying a feeling of love is a good feeling? Are you saying a feeling of like championship when you won something? That's a different feeling than love, correct? But it's still a strong feeling. It's still a good feeling. So when people offer these generalities in religion, we as atheists, to me, or just anyone who's a rational thinker, should just go, no more generalities. You need to know the actual thingness of a thing. You need a good ontology. You need to ask ontology questions. You're not just asking random things. You want to know, if they say, well, I believe in God. Okay, what's a God? And so, well, God's a supernatural thing. Well, what's a supernatural thing? Well, it's a thing that, is more important than a spirit. What's a spirit? Well, it's kind of like your soul. What is a soul? Well, even like when you're spiritual. What is spiritual? I mean, to me, all these words, terms, are just these meaningless abstractions that people just throw out like bursts of air that have no substance to them. They have no real ontology. If you start asking the thingness of those things, then people are like, well, I don't know. Yeah, well, it says this, or some people say this, or I think of it this way. You know what? If it's a real thing, if it has a real ontology, there's not a billion ways to, describe the same thing that if they're contradictory, it's still okay. No. If you can't give real qualities and they're not reproducible reliably, then your thing doesn't sound like that what you're talking about is what the thing you're actually talking about. Either you're confused or it's simply you're just making up and it's not real. Most people like to think that they're just confused at this point because that would still hope that their bullshit belief is somehow real. But to me, this belief was bought without evidence. And if they really analyze the world, it should also be let go without evidence. Because you know what? You don't need it. You never had it to begin with. The belief was taken in a way that was not really critical thinking, was not logic. So to me, in philosophy, people think like it's a war of philosophy and science. Well, to me, it's absolutely not. Science is using tons of philosophy. And to me, likewise, philosophy is benefited by the empirical evidence of science. To me, the best jumping off point is the place of science. Using philosophy to understand the methodology and methodological ways of thinking in science and how to apply that to the evidence, and then take that evidence and put it backwards back to the philosophy and come with new philosophy, realizations from the actual evidence. That's something that I try to do. So I feel that there is no war of philosophy and science. Shouldn't be. To me, good philosophy should be about a search for the truth. That's it. Nothing fucking amazing other than just wanting to know reality. To me, it's an earnest, it should be, an earnest desire for the truth. An earnest desire to figure things out. And that's why I don't see why a philosophy wouldn't want science to figure things out. Well, science does a great job at doing that. Science takes, to me, the scientific method, which to me, the scientific method is rationalism. That's how you come up with hypothesis. Then empiricism, the actual looking at the evidence in relation to the hypothesis to see if it actually comes, to the conclusion that was, speculated on, or if it fails. It's not like science tries to prove things right. It gets these hypotheses and tries to prove them wrong, tries to test them, tries to analyze them, tries to figure them out. It's not exactly that science is trying to debunk something. It's just science is trying to understand. And in the process of understanding, you have to challenge things. You have to question. I just think it's so ridiculous. People will go to me, Damien, why do you question people's religion? It makes them feel good. Drugs makes you feel good. They don't seem to be a problem challenging people doing drugs. It just because something makes you feel good, guess what? We're feeling beings. Shocker. We feel things, all the time about everything. We watch TV shows and we watch fake, people on these TV shows dying, or we cry, we feel emotions, we feel champion when they win things that are all fake. We feel things all the time. The fact that people think that feelings are so magical or something is hilarious. They're doing it all the time. Like, I felt something on a church. Yeah, and you also felt something when you did the rock show. And I felt stuff before going to a strip club. So, are you saying that somehow that I wasn't feeling a feeling of awe? The thing is, to me, these words like spiritual and God and everything and soul, they're really referring to me to just this phenomenological thing that we feel as humans. It's a false attribution to me, because to me, in our mind, that when we think of the I, ourselves, what really is going on is that our brain is creating like a little avatar us in our thinking. And somehow we think this thing is like a constant. It's not. You were not the same at 5 years old. You were not the same at 10 years old. You were not the same at 20 years old. You're not the same at 30, at 50, at, 90. We constantly change, but we're under this delusion that somehow it always stays the same. We're constantly changing in our sense of our personality. It may be large jumps or maybe small jumps, but it's a continual process of change. We evolve in our personality from the day that we're born to the day we die. But it's this feeling, this sea of emotions that just sways us. And we're not very good at analyzing, what's this mean? Because to us, in other words, if I put a gun at you, you immediately feel terror, right? So it's an automatic emotional response. So the emotion to a threat. So the emotional response is accurate, right? At that point, if I put a gun at you, or someone put a gun at me, and then we feel this feeling, this is an accuracy. The phenomenology is matching reality, right? Totally correct. So the problem is we're not always right emotionally. No, we're not. So let's just say that I look in the corner, and out of the corner of my eye, I thought I saw something. I feel this terror, but I look and there's nothing there. Well, I didn't see something, obviously. What it was is I just got scared because, my mind made a false assumption. It thought it saw something, but it really didn't. And then it just assumed that since something was unknown, to feel afraid, in a sense. So we feel these feelings all the time, and we're having this problem all the time that we are getting feelings. Some are accurate, some are not. So the problem is we think they're all accurate in a sense, or we truth edit. We forget the times that we made these errors, and we only think of our successes. Oh, there was a few times I was on the money, and that was an accurate feeling. Yeah, and most time they're not. We get shitloads of feelings all the time. Like sometimes, let's say that people say, I'm in a bad mood. Well, really, their phenomenology is operating without their consent. It's feeling these feelings, wrong attributions of the world, and then it's projecting it out on everything. So it's like the me seeing something out of the corner of my eye, or someone being afraid of the darkness. There's nothing there, but you're still afraid of the unknown, or afraid of these feelings. And it's just, we're being hijacked emotionally. So this is the difference between, I think, science and philosophy, and say a person who's just a average, religious believer who doesn't, or a person not approaching it from these type of thinking, because an average person, is only feeling the feelings, the emotions, whatever, and then just intuitively saying that must mean things are true. If I feel it, I don't know how many people that are religious told me, well, I feel it. You don't understand. Yeah, we have feelings. We're phenomenological, emotional beings. Yep. Yeah. And we're worried about the outer world, but yet we need people. So then we're wanting to bond in a sense, and wanting to believe things and wanting to accept things, because we're also social beings. But then we have this, when we analyze, are these good beliefs, right? Or mine. If you're an emotional thinker, then if you feel it emotionally, that's evidence. It is evidence you're feeling emotions. But like I was saying, that we need to understand that there is not a straight link to our emotions and the accuracy of the world. There just isn't. And this is something we have to acknowledge. And when you realize that, I think it helps you to be more of a philosophic thinker. To realize that, hold on a second. Are emotions really the greatest way to understand the world? Do they produce the most accuracy when we're just allowing them to overtake us and assume that as evidence? The answer is, if we feel that way, would we do it in the stock market? Would we do it, in a business decision? Would we do it in our relationships? How useful is this thing that you are thinking about? This way of processing, is it really valid? Because the validity of something and the reliability. So how valid is it? How often can it produce what you want? Like people say, whoa, Damien, you have faith in reason. Because I have a statement that reason is my only master. I'm a rationalist, not a skeptic. You push me hard enough, I just keep thinking. That's all I keep doing, keep thinking. And sometimes I'll just say I don't know because I haven't, thought enough to understand it. Or sometimes maybe for some reason I can't understand it yet, or maybe ever. But to me, it's really getting to the place that when someone asks you stuff, it's that openness to assess what's being offered. So whenever something's being offered, to me, I assess its ontology. What is its quality, its thingness of things? I have a belief standard, which I call belief etiquette. And to me, it's basically three things. It is, you have reasoned belief acquisitions. That, in other words, how you go out and search for beliefs or things you will believe, or when you're presented with stuff, how you let stuff come in. If you just don't, everything that you feel emotionally, and someone says something nice, that you just go, oh yes, oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. Now here's the thing too. It is not a problem from doing oh yes, oh yes, oh yes, if the beliefs are trivial. If I say to you that you need to believe, that I can see through my glasses right now to, view what I'm looking at. You don't know my prescription, nor do you see through my eyeballs to know that actually I can see. Could be completely blind for all you know. But it's accepting my statement is not a big deal. I'm talking about a real world thing, and it is possible that I can see. It appears that I'm acting in a way that I have vision, or to at least some level. So it's not a very, I'm not asking you to jump in logic. In other words, the leap that you're making, that it looks like I can see, it assumes that I can see, I'm operating that way, and you have no reason not to. And I'm not asking you to accept something phantasmic or something. So to me, even me, if someone said that, I could say, okay. I would just, okay. I have no reason to even question it because it's not asking me much. But if I tell you that I can actually see into your mind because I wear these glasses, now that's a way higher claim. And that is something that if you have belief etiquette, you go, whoa, what did you just say? hold on, am I understanding that right? Because sometimes I realized, as I got better at debating, why it's so important to just ask more questions. I think in debates too often we assume the other person, oh, I know what they're saying, or I think I know what they're saying, or I think I know what they're going to say. And so we're already operating without, like some people could say, completely come up with how they want to end their last argument, or they want to, before they even talk to the person. I mean, to me, that's not how I do it. I want to be more open, just like I want them to be. You know what I'm saying? To me, we are demanding that someone else investigates their thinking, assess what they believe, and then be open to change it. We need to also emulate that. I need to be open, right? I want them to be, then I need to be. I need to be open to change. And maybe they have something that I can learn from. So I don't always assume that people, can't teach me. I'm always open to learn. I'm open to learn from anyone. Even people that don't even know what they're doing sometimes, I still learn from that. To me, a really wise person can learn from something, said that is stupid. And really stupid people cannot learn even from a wise person sometimes. And it really, to me, is willingness. Willingness, and the biggest thing that happens in lack of willingness is people don't ask questions. They're like afraid to ask questions. Why? Because then they don't know. Or it looks like they're uninformed. Or it looks like they can't understand things. But this is really ego. That's all it is. It's just ego. You don't want to look bad. You know what? To me, you look terrible if you can't help change people. And you can't help change people with a closed-minded attitude. And you may change a few people, but you really won't have a solid impact. Because, in a sense, people don't like to be punched in the face with the truth. That's not how people are willing to listen. No, I need to offer the truth as a friend, willing to help. And so to me, it's a different perspective. I don't really see my talking to people as trying to win. I'm trying to help them think. I'm trying to inspire good, belief etiquette. That's the important thing. And to me, that's what science has. So science, that's why I say to me, science has good belief etiquette already. It does not just accept shit. And it is always open to challenge itself. No, thing in a sense in science is fixed to the point that it's can't be changed. It's provisional. But that's a wise thing, because I think that it's basically using, and I use it, which is the philosophy of fallibilism. We're fallible. Guess what? I'm going to make a mistake for the rest of my life. That's how often I'm going to keep making mistakes. Not perfect. So I'm not even saying I have to be perfect though. See, that's why do we feel the need to have to? I do. To me, it's like when people talk about certainty, absolute certainty. Well, to me, generally in philosophy, a highest, in a kind of sense, level of certainty that's valid is generally considered epistemic certainty. Epistemic certainty just basically means that you have the highest amount of quality available to demonstrate that thing. So that's, to me, the most important. I don't care about the word absolute. To me, what's important, is it valid? Is it reliable? Is it enriched with the qualities necessary to demonstrate that it's valid and reliable with reason and evidence? If it can do that, then it likely is true. And then when something is true to me, and it's confirmed, then to me that is a piece of knowledge. And so to me, that's that people will say, like, I know things, they have knowledge of things, but to me, if they can't really demonstrate it in a philosophical, logic and reason way, or a science evidentiary testing way, it's not truth and it's not knowledge. Or maybe you just need to explain it better. But to me, this is a real important thing. So when we think about philosophy and science, to me, we should think about them both as being methodological structures of how to understand the world. One is through internal thinking. Another one is external, feeling, in a sense, testing or whatever. So to me but that they're not in contrast. To me that they're actually, I guess siblings or whatever. They're connected, beneficial things. They should be used together. To me, man, when I think of the validation, my trifecta or whatever, why I'm not religious, it's basically, because of science, and then in the middle of that, is archaeology, which is basically a science and a kind of a humanities, because it deals with not just the artifacts, but how to interpret them kind of anthropologically, socially, ethnographically, whatever. So to me, there's the archaeology in the middle, and then the last one is philosophy, all the reason and stuff. So to me, it's the gamut of three things. The science is totally against the God concept. Then you have the archaeology, which is against it, and then you have, philosophy. Those three reasons are why I am very sure about my, atheism. And I think everybody, should really understand how to use evidence. I hear people say, oh, but you can't just get people to agree with facts. Yeah, I know. You have to teach them. You don't send a fucking kid to school with a book and let them in quiet time and they learn everything by themselves. Yeah. No, we have things called teachers. And to me, when a teacher, just think, how would you want a teacher to teach your kid? Right? You have a kid. Do you want them to yell at them, belittle them, call them names, make them feel inferior? Is that how you want your child to be taught? Yeah, I don't think so. Just think, that child, now change it, that you are the teacher, and that child is a believer or a religious person or a God, a theist, or a spiritual person or whatever you're talking to. Treat them like you'd want a teacher to treat your child. Talk to them as a friend. To me, it is this openness. It is this willingness, this care. And I'm not always able to do it. I mean, sometimes I get fucking pissed off, or I'm tired or stressed out because sometimes I overextend myself. So I'm not claiming perfection. Sometimes I just get done. But that's not my goal. See, that's a failure to me. I failed of what I want to do. Not the person, not even doing a debate, but I failed me. My goal is to try to be a friend of the world. That first, that second, that third. I want to try to do the best I can to make a difference in the world by kindness, by care, by openness, by thinking, by reason. We should be brave and caring. And with that,